was telling Mark when we were looking at Mike, like, I'm like, this dude's f***ing huge, which he is, but I didn't realize like I'm not too far off, which was kind of surprising.
There's been some comments on my Instagram where people are like, I think this is disingenuous and this is this and this and that. And I think you're doing stuff for the clicks, which is really weird. Because if I was doing stuff for the clicks, I would just get big and bench heavy again. Like that works great. We're just trying to think of like, how can we optimize, I guess, what we got? Yeah. How can we make the most of what we have? And if I think back, that's all I was ever trying to do in the first place.
When it comes to Steph Curry, because you brought up a very interesting player there. People thought basketball could only be played one way, and then here comes this guy that's just shooting threes. And everyone who watches basketball or is a big fan of it is like,
took a giant on everybody.
He literally changed the way the game is played. Now you got all these young players coming up, focusing on the three. These big men coming up.
People aren't covering from half court, and we shoot from here.
What would some of those additions be when you were trying to get as strong as possible? What would you be also doing so that you'd be in a better place right now?
I think like I did a pretty good job, especially for somebody that was so into powerlifting. The one thing that I didn't really recognize is how badly my athleticism deteriorated.
I know like we've been kind of clowning on like oh, it's not optimal or whatever, but like I didn't know anything. So I wish I did know what was technically optimal, not because so-and-so said it, but because of the shit that I've learned.
I think a lot of people have bad experiences with fitness, like their first experience. Sometimes their first experience is just like really, really hard. What an amazing thing to teach somebody that you don't need to think of yourself as someone special. You don't necessarily need to be someone special, but if you can build some consistency in this game, you're going to be extraordinary.
If I did those things, there would be less trying to adjust when getting better at jiu-jitsu. I wouldn't need as much mobility training and all the things that I've been doing to unwind all that training. And I know how people say, this fitness thing, it's like there are tried and true methods of doing things. But as we do more things, like we're just like, wow, like these are a lot of capacities that could help me get bigger.
It's not that tried. It's not that true. It's fucking new. It's still really new.
Or maybe
lifting weights is still new.
Power Project family, this episode is brought to you by Vivo Barefoot shoes. Now, we've been wearing Vivos for over a year now, and we've been loving these shoes because unlike your normal lifting shoes, Converse, etc., they have a wide toe box because we have some wide fat feet. But for everybody, you need to be able to spread your feet within your shoes, and then you want them compacted. So they have a wide toe box. They're also thin, and they're also extremely flexible. Unlike most shoes that people wear, they don't move, okay? You're putting your foot into a cast, which isn't good for the strength of your feet. And as athletes and lifters, our force is generated from the ground. So we need shoes that we can express our strength through, and that's why we love Vivo. They also look fucking amazing. They don't look like shit, Andrew.
No, they don't. Not at all. These are my absolute favorite shoes. And, we could talk and brag about them, but you really just got to get your awesome feet into these amazing shoes. You guys got to head over to vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. When you guys go there, you'll see a backstory on why we love these shoes so much. But when you're ready to purchase, make sure you guys use promo code PowerProject20 to save 20% off. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
What would we do differently? Are we recording?
Yeah.
Who won the flex off too? Like between Tren and
Mike won.
Natty Professor.
Mike won.
I think
really like a bodybuilding eye. He just is ahead right now at the moment.
Much leaner than me. Much leaner than me. You could see in person how dry the dude was.
He does look very lean. But is there any argument for you? Like, are you a little bigger in certain areas or something?
There are areas where I think I may potentially have Mike if we were the same level of leanness. The primary area, oddly enough, would be the back. Because do you remember when we were flexing in LA?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I did have a bit of the angle there. But my back is wider. Everything else though, pretty sure he has me. Like everything else, I'm pretty sure he has me. He has a bigger chest. He has bigger arms. The only two things I may be able to get him on, if I were the same level of leanness, would be a back double bi and a back lat spread. Outside of that, though, Mike's got me.
You did get quite a bit of like compliments though in the comments from people being like, "This is what O'Hearn has been focusing on." You know, for the most part, I know he does like power bodybuilding, so he does go heavy and whatnot.
But that helps his size.
Okay. So and then, but for you, jiu-jitsu, while still, I guess, kind of similar, right? Like some power bodybuilding stuff, but not your main focus, right? Your main focus is not
losing size,
and it's definitely not losing size.
Yeah.
But when you guys were doing the little face off, it was just like, fuck, dude, you are right there. And so a lot of people are like, holy shit, like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah,
that was cool. It's funny because I was telling Mark when we were looking at Mike, like I'm like, this dude's fucking huge, which he is, but I didn't realize like I'm not too far off, which was kind of surprising. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It would be really cool to see you guys battle it out, go head to head
with like knives and stuff. Yeah, get shredded, diced. At
some point before he gets too old, I would like to step on stage with him.
It would be
because cool. it wouldn't be cool about that. Well, actually, by the time he's 60, who knows? He might even be listening. You don't know with that fucker. You know what I mean?
He might even be in better shape.
I'm like, I think it's either now or never, dude. He might get like, it might be too good to where he can't catch up.
Yeah, man. Redefine aging, guys.
I do think that it's a really wonderful thing, though, to like be, to feel good around some of the people that we have that come in and do the show, you know, to feel like any resemblance of being comparable at all.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike O'Hearn is, he's not just a bodybuilder. He's like one of the greatest of all time. Like he really is. And I know, like, you know, bodybuilders that are thinking about like who's won what shows and stuff. That's not really what I'm talking about, but he's influential. He's been around for a really long time and he's always been in shape. He's always been strong. Like, you know, you're not going to catch Mike not being able to deadlift 600 pounds. You're not going to catch him not being able to squat 600 pounds. You're not going to be able to catch him benching under like 400. Like he's always going to be strong. And he's never going to, he might be bigger at certain times, but he's never going to be fat. I mean, you're just not going to catch the guy sleeping. And he's been doing that for a long time. So
he texted me at 4 this morning because I sent him a text yesterday. He's like, all right, gotcha. And you knew that he's texting at 4, so he's going to go work out. Like,
fucking machine.
He's really a machine. Oh, man. What's the boys?
Titan.
Well, there's Titan, but who's the anti-hero from the boys that he kept getting compared to?
Oh, the boys. Homelander. There you go.
That was, man, people kept calling you. Did you ever watch The Boys?
I haven't seen it enough to know who that is.
Yeah, Homelander is he's like the Superman of that universe, but he's also evil.
Dickhead.
He's evil.
Yeah, people kept calling him Homelander, but I know y'all hate it when we talk about Mike. Some of you guys hate when we talk about Mike O'Hearn, but the guy's just done it. He's been doing it.
He's jacked.
There ain't nothing you can't say shit about him. He's consistent as fuck.
Yeah, and it's good to have, you know, different people coming through the doors. You know, and you as a man, I mean, you kind of always are. It's always like a dick measuring contest. You're always trying to see how you stack up against someone else. And hey, sometimes they got a bigger dick.
But as all bodybuilders, we all have small penises.
We're trying to make up for him.
Who's the biggest of the smallest?
That's right. We had Bedros Keuilian recently. We also had we have Matt Winning here right now.
Guys, go to that Bedros podcast. I'm sorry, Mark.
It was insane.
Guys, if you haven't listened to the podcast with Bedros, God damn, there was so much good in there.
And then even if you have heard it, go back again. That shit is so good.
Did you start out Winning the Devil, right?
I have, and like I had mentioned earlier, like I'm having a fucking really difficult time paying attention to anything. So like I'll hit play, I'll listen for like, I don't know, maybe
I gotta get you some drugs.
Like 35, 40 minutes, and I'll look down and I'm like, fuck. I completely have no clue what this book's about. So I have to start it over again. And then it's like, imagine getting at the end of your workout and being like, oh shit, I've been at the gym for 40 minutes and I actually haven't touched one weight. Like, I got to go now. It's like, I got shit to do now. So like, I can't.
Man, you better start paying better attention.
I'm trying, dude. I don't know what's going on. I literally can't, like, movies suck. Like, I can't pay attention to anything right now.
All right, fair. Well, you see, I think part of the reason why you can't is because you're fucking vocabulary.
Vocabulary?
What you're saying, bro?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I can't pay any attention.
There ain't no cans.
It's not my fault that there's no good movies or shows right now.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, guys, the point
We've heard it. There hasn't been a good movie since Braveheart.
Exactly.
We know.
Yeah. And I haven't laughed hard since like the 80s. So
fuck you.
I haven't laughed in 4 years.
yeah.
Either way, that book, Outwitting the Devil, it's Bedros mentioned it. After I listened to it, I'm like, whoa, dude, this was written in 1930.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird thing is, like, for example, when he talks about schooling in the book, right? And the way kids should like probably deal with school, it's exactly what Acton Academy is doing.
Yeah, right.
It's like to the book, to the T.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a must listen or read. Anyway, you were mentioning guys like Bedros, Mike, and Matt Wenning.
Yeah, it's cool to have these guys come through and, rubbing elbows with people that are better than you at certain things. I mean, Matt is a guy that I admired for a long time. When I went to Westside, he was like the main guy at Westside. And he, squatted 1197. I forget what his shirted bench was, but he deadlifted 800 pounds. Raw, he did really well. Also, he squatted like 840 or something like that. He broke an all-time world record in the squat, which is kind of interesting because the squat has changed so much since that time. I think it's like in the 900s now. And that wasn't that many years ago that he did that. So the numbers are they've gone bonkers in powerlifting. Obviously he's a really an amazing bench presser, and I think he did like 611, which is a massive, massive bench press, especially for a guy that's sometimes when someone concentrates on something specific, sometimes it's a little easier. They're not required to have a huge deadlift and a huge squat, but kind of as we're talking about here, we have these different people coming in. And it feels good to be fit. It feels good to be in shape and to be able to stand next to these people and not feel either like a shrimp or not feel out of shape.
Yes.
Having someone like Mike here, it's like, okay, like we could go on a run, you know what I mean? Like, and it's going to kind of even the score. And then, like with jiu-jitsu, it's an amazing equalizer for just about anything. Somebody wants to get really dumb, you have kind of the ultimate weapon in your back pocket. But I'm not saying that you have to have those things, but it's a nice thing to have to help build confidence, to feel significant around other people. And maybe there's something within myself that maybe I have felt insignificant, so maybe that's why I leaned into so much of this for so many years. But some of what we're going to talk about today is like getting big and kind of some of the ways we did it years ago versus how we might do it now with some of the information that we have now. There's been some comments on my Instagram where people are like, I think this is disingenuous and this is this and this and that. And I think you're doing stuff for the clicks, which is really weird. Because if I was doing stuff for the clicks, I would just get big and bench heavy again. Like that works great.
Yeah.
And I don't even really there's so much of my life that I don't record. I think Nsima is actually fairly private too. Like there's so many things that I think would be fun and cool to record. But I'm like, no, this is for me, especially when I'm running. Like I know I'm recording a lot of running. People are seeing a lot of running. But there's a lot of moments in my run where I'm like, oh, this would be really cool to share. And I'm like, no, man, like just hold on to this for yourself. Like this is great. Like this is a good place to be. This is where I need to be training wise. And I did a lot of training many, many years before the internet came around. And same with Mike O'Hearn and same with all of us really that are here right now. We did a lot of training that we didn't have any idea what it was going to do for us. We didn't know that we were going to turn into these three superheroes that are on the Power Project now, giving out tremendous information, talking about our dicks and penis pumps and so on. We had no idea what it was going to turn into, but it was what we were into when we were younger. It was what we were like obsessed with, and we're still into it. Yeah. It's just we are gravitating towards different things because I think the three of us have learned it has paid off to lean in towards the things that we're interested in. Mm-hmm. And we may have stumbled or it may have taken us a minute to get our footing leaning in that direction. Maybe we knocked on some doors and then opened the door, walked through the door and said, whoops, that's the wrong way. and then had to turn around and knock on another door to find not only what we're interested in, but what works for us. And you keep doing that and you get hurt. You make poor financial decisions. You make poor choices and poor decisions. You mistreat people. People mistreat you. Like along the way, you keep fucking up. And over a period of time, you start to learn, I want to lean towards this more. I want to lean towards this more. And before you know it, you turn into like a maniac a little bit, where first thing in the morning, you're cold plunging, and then you're getting in a sauna, and then you're like
doing your red light therapy.
And then you're like, God forbid I take 2 steps without having correct toes on, or some sort of toe splay device to yoga toes, and all these different things that you're constantly thinking of. But I think where we're at now, we're just trying to think of like, how can we optimize, I guess, what we got?
Yeah.
How can we make the most of what we have? And if I think back, that's all I was ever trying to do in the first place, was optimize whatever it was I had at that time. And what I had at that time was like knowledge to crank a bunch of music, get intense, go and throw down and do a typical powerlifting workout that you've seen from anybody else. I had some different ways of doing it, but not much different than what you saw. People headbutting the bar and bleeding out of your nose and training until you puke, and like all those things were like, I've seen them a lot of times. People tearing muscles. It's just, that's like what I knew. That's what I was attracted to. That I was attracted to that intensity, and I wanted to be around that. And I wanted to find other people that knew how to navigate that game, even though it was dangerous. How do you navigate that game that's so dangerous, but not get hurt and come out the other side stronger? And that was what I was obsessed with at the time. But now I've kind of moved on to doing some other things. I'm still obsessed with getting better, but it's just in some different stuff.
Yeah, dude. The cool thing, when we look back to even when I started training, there was just the internet, bodybuilding.com. There was no social media. So what I was interested was, when I started lifting, was getting bigger, because number one, I couldn't play soccer at that time. But all I understood was, well, I want to be huge. I want to get big. Bodybuilding made the most sense. But after Instagram came into the equation, I got into powerlifting and stuff like that. But after, you see all these people doing a lot of really cool different things. And after I got into jiu-jitsu, that opened up jiu-jitsu and stuff to me. And then I see these people moving in all these different ways with these high levels of mobility and balance and movement. And when you see all of that, then you kind of realize, well, not only can I be big or stay big, but I can also move really well. Oh shit, there are these people over here. Why are their feet different than mine? Well, okay, that's what I need. I can fix that too while still doing these things. So yeah, we started with a narrow scope. Or I'm going to speak for myself. I started with a narrow scope because I only saw so much. But as I was introduced and exposed to all these really, really awesome modalities of becoming better and moving better and just becoming a more optimized human, I knew that I can add these things in without taking away from the things that I already like and the things I'm already good at. So as we bring all these things to the table, because like comments that Andrew mentioned this in the beginning, comments that we see are like, you guys don't need to reinvent the wheel. If you want to build muscle, it's not this complex. You guys, like you said, you guys are doing this just for the clicks, or you guys are doing this because it's just the new flavor of the month. We're not doing it for that reason. We're just doing that because now there's much more we can add to our plate to increase our capacities in terms of running while staying big, doing jiu-jitsu while staying big and increasing range of motion, all these things. And we know that if we can do these things, we can absolutely just give you the information so you can do it too, if you're interested in that.
Yeah, if you look at like the career of Stan Efferding, predominantly did a lot of bodybuilding. And he was trying to get big, and he was training too often, training a little too heavy. He ran into a guy who told him, look, man, it's not about your training, it's about your recovery. We had Matt Wenning said the same thing. It's about what you can recover from. Like, what a beautiful message that is. I don't give a fuck what you can do. But if you're all torn up tomorrow and you can't do anything tomorrow, like that's not great, right? Like, so what if you had a 40-inch vertical, but you tore your calf, like what can you recover from? What's repeatable for you? And that's always more impressive, right? You look at like what made Michael Jordan great, or what made Ed Cohn great, what made some of these guys great. It's not just that they did the big lift, made the big 3-pointer at the end of the game. It's that they did it over a long period of time.
Yeah.
Year in and year out. Like, Steph Curry is going to keep showing up and keep kicking your fucking ass, and there ain't shit you can do about it. And when you start to guard the three, he's going to start to drive the lane. He's going to start to throw the ball fucking 30 feet up in the air and knock it off the backboard and in. And then when you start to guard the 3-pointer and you start to guard that, he's going to fucking dish the ball to somebody else.
By the way,
it's just a fucking nightmare, and he does it every year.
When it comes to Steph Curry, because you brought up a very interesting player there. People thought basketball could only be played one way, and then here comes this guy that's just shooting threes. And everyone who watches basketball or is a big fan of it is like,
took a giant shit on everybody.
He literally changed the way the game is played. Now you got all these young players coming up, focusing on the three. These big men coming up.
People aren't covering from half court. Let me shoot from here.
Right? You got these 7-footers that know how to shoot a three. Why? Because Steph Curry changed the game. He showed you it could be done differently.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're Steph Curry either.
No.
I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying.
But Stan showed people something different too. Like, I think people have known this in powerlifting for a long time. If you go back to the beginning, more to the beginning of powerlifting, when Ed Cohn was prevalent, there was a lot of people that were jacked, like jacked as fuck and not fat. Bill Kazmaier looked like he was going to fucking rip the tires off of a bus. Like, that guy was fucking just... He was an animal. He looked incredible. But there was a lot of guys that looked like that back then, because the guys knew it was about being big and having a lot of muscle mass. The muscle mass was going to help move. But Efferding, when he came into powerlifting, he helped change the game, because I think a lot of people at that time just thought you just keep getting bigger and fatter and bigger and fatter, and you wear powerlifting equipment, take a bunch of steroids and lift some heavy ass weight. But when Stan came in, he showed us a different way. And it's like, well, shit, if I can bodybuild, if I can work on the peaks of my biceps a little bit, and it's not detrimental, it's not negatively impacting my recovery for my deadlift workouts. And not only is it not negatively impacting me, if I do it strategically, it will be of benefit if I'm more fit. Remember Wenning the other day saying he came to the conclusion that no other powerlifter ever came to, was that he wasn't fit enough to be able to hit a 600-pound bench because of the squat that he did, because he was not used to walking out squats. And he had to walk out 3 squats before he did his bench, and then therefore he hit like a 570 bench instead of a 600-pound bench. And then Efferding coming in with his background, training with Flex Wheeler, people thought that Stan, I know it's just gross how fucking jacked.
This is just comical.
We're showing some photos of the Rhino. Let's check it out. Yeah. People thought that Stan powerlifted and did bodybuilding at the same time, and he didn't. And the same is true with our buddy Mike O'Hearn. O'Hearn does his power bodybuilding. He'll blend the two. And when he gets ready for competition, he's still kind of lifting heavy, but it's a reduced amount of weight that he's pushing in the gym because the body's just not in a good position to be as strong as possible. So when Mike is getting bigger, he'll take more risks in the gym. He'll lift a little heavier. He'll do some more reps, more sets. He'll do more overall volume. And when he starts to lose a lot of body fat, he still might do some singles and stuff like that to hold on to the hypertrophy. But the weights that he's using are, as he put it, which is really interesting, those are weights that he can normally do for 10 reps. So if he does 405 for a single on an incline bench, that's something that he could quite easily do for a set of 10 when he's a big boy.
Oh, yeah.
When he's fluffed up a bit. So these guys, a lot of people aren't doing things simultaneously. They're moving through different things at different times. And I guess part of my point in bringing this up is I have zero doubt that at 30 years old, that Nsima is going to circle back to the deadlift at some point and want to start ripping up some bigger deadlifts. Maybe he accomplishes some of the things that he wanted to do in jiu-jitsu, and he's like, you know what? I want to see if I can pull 7 plates for 5 reps, or so, something, something to give him a goal in powerlifting. And there's no doubt I'm gonna, cycle back through some benches and squats and deadlifts. Like, they're always going to be part of what we're doing, but we're moving into some other things because we're following our interest in those things. And in order to really properly test some stuff out, sometimes you have to do an elimination workout, almost like you would do an elimination diet. How do I know that this particular work is going to be effective for my back if I'm still fucking deadlifting every week like an idiot? Maybe I need to cut the fucking deadlifts out just for a little bit. I'm not saying they're the cause of the back pain, but they could be, right? Let's try to narrow it down and find out what's bothering me so that I can continue to make progress and continue to learn and grow.
I actually have a question for you, because you recently just you benched 315 without having any pain in your shoulder, which during your career, if you did bench 315, even though that shit would have been light as a feather for you when you were focused on powerlifting, you would have felt something in your shoulder. Am I wrong in that assumption, or am I correct?
Normally, like my shoulder, normally for bench press, I was pretty good. Like usually shit didn't hurt.
Usually shit didn't hurt ever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Every once in a while, my elbows would flare up. But yeah.
I was curious because because your movement ability is so much better now. My assumption, and again, could be totally wrong, is that if you chose to be like, you know what, I'm going to go back into powerlifting, non-equipped powerlifting, I want to push some numbers again. I think that because you move better now, your progression through that, you'd give yourself time, but you'd probably end up with some really good lifts, looking better and probably feeling better if you did that now versus when you were deep in it. Am I wrong or am I right?
No, you're right. I mean, in terms of some of the other lifts, like those would take longer.
Yeah.
The deadlift and the squat would take longer. I'm a little further regressed on those just because I have not practiced much of that in a while. So those would take a while to like build back up. But I could bench 500 pounds in just a couple months.
Oh shit.
I mean, it wouldn't, I've been doing it for a long time. Like I know that the strength is there. Even when I benched 315 the other day, even though that's a far cry from 500, I know that like at least 400 is in there somewhere. And then it would just be a matter of building out like 100 pounds. But you got to keep in mind, I don't have much practice right now on bench pressing. So as soon as I started to practice it, I would have a combination of some muscle memory. And then I'm also down 20 pounds from where I was like just normally. Forget about like the powerlifting career stuff. I was hovering around 240 all the time. And I guess I'm not 20 pounds down. I'm more like 10 pounds down. But I'm working on still getting lighter. So as you're getting lighter, it's harder to, maintain and keep that strength. That's why I was pretty surprised with the 315 for 3, which is something I've been doing since I was a kid, basically. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't like, holy shit, that's super strong. I was just thinking like, that's pretty interesting because I have not really bench pressed in months. Any significant amount of bench pressing that would lead to me holding on to strength but I have been doing other things. I've been doing like push-ups, been doing shoulder work. I've been doing a lot of other exercises. And I actually think that any strength training can be a contributor to other types of strength training. Like we know that a deadlift can help with a squat. We know that a squat can help with a deadlift. But I think sometimes we don't really even realize something like a lat pull down or some pull-ups or something like that could have huge benefit on your bench press. It's not really going to move the needle for you on your bench if that's the only thing you're doing. But in combination with some like push-ups and some other things, I think you'd be shocked. I think like Nsima has been. I know you got like a little bit of an injury when the CT came in, but you were able to move some pretty good weight in a deadlift.
Yeah.
You've basically been just tossing around kettlebells, right?
Yeah. Up until that point, I pulled 675 when CT came. And up until that point, the week before, I just moved myself to pull like 500 just so I could see how that weight feels so I could understand what I'd be able to pull on that day. And the 500 for whatever how many reps I did was very easy. So I was like, there's a 700 there. And then when CT came, I did pull 675. I pulled a little something in my back, but it healed up after a week. And it was fast. Like it wasn't like that was my max. It wasn't my max because of how it moved. So yeah, and the cool thing is That's after not deadlifting for a very long time, but I did maintain resistance training for strength for my body. So, you know, it's also very similar to Dre, who we've had in here, every goddamn Dre. We talk about him all the time too, but he primarily works with kettlebells. Then when he decides to pull the barbell out, he's single leg lunging 365 Bulgarian split. Like he's doing crazy shit with the barbell.
Yeah, he's strong.
And he hasn't lost that strength. So if he decided to push the barbell, he'd be able to get it very
His
strong
legs
with
are
it.
fucking huge too.
That's why I think, you know, if you've been listening into the show and you've been seeing some of the things that Mark, Andrew, and myself have been doing, you shouldn't be afraid if you're not competing in powerlifting. You shouldn't be afraid of trying different modalities of training as far as kettlebells or maybe some calisthenics and maybe reduce a bit of your barbell volume. You shouldn't be afraid of losing muscle because you won't lose muscle. You won't lose a great amount of strength, especially if you push another modality for a small period of time. Because it's not like you're going to be sitting on the couch. If you just stopped training and you weren't doing anything, okay, you'd lose some muscle and strength. But as long as you keep something, right, you're going to be fine.
And what's it look like when you pick up a kettlebell and you do 10 reps on one side and 10 reps on the other? It's like maybe you picked up, 50 something pounds, right? Well, just start to multiply that out. You do 10 reps on one side, 10 reps on the other. Maybe you did 3 sets while you're doing something else in between. I think we undersell the value and the volume that you just did. Obviously, if you were to go in and squat 500 for a couple sets of 3 or something, you would be getting more work in for your legs specifically. But that kettlebell work, especially like single leg, like we're just talking about a totally different animal. And Matt Wenning kept mentioning some people that we should have on the show. Eric Cressy being one of them.
I've heard of him.
Mike Boyle, I think, is the other guy that comes to mind. These are people that long ago decided, look, man, let's go single arm, single leg. Like they decided they're not against doing a deadlift by any means. They're not against, at least from what I remember. They may have changed some of their things, but Eric Cressy is like one of the leading guys. He's the go-to guy for baseball. People always go to him for baseball, and even our buddy Jesse Burdick works with a lot of pitchers and a lot of high-level baseball players. And what does Burdick show us every time he comes around? It's usually like some sort of single leg squat torture thing, and we're like, oh man, and we just don't do it because it hurts too bad because we're pussies. But he's been pretty good with that, and that's also why he's got a good reputation as a good powerlifting coach. Because the whole time that we're talking about all these different things, Jesse Burdick has been implementing these things for his powerlifters. He calls, at the end of the workout, he calls it fat shaming. And it's basically a bunch of exercises to keep everybody fit, to keep them in shape. And so he'll have them drag the sled. He'll have them do, Bulgarian split squats, walking lunges, like just stuff that you don't want to do. You might superset a single leg calf raise with a step up or something like that. It's all stuff that like a powerlifter's like, I ain't doing that shit. But keeping some of that stuff in can help keep some athleticism, some mobility, just with fucking getting out of your car. You know, if you're 40 pounds heavier because you're powerlifting, trying to figure out some things that are going to allow you to feel better when you're just walking around is brilliant. The other thing that Burdick is a big fan of is just going for a walk with like a weighted vest or a weight. Grab 10 pounds and go walk a mile. Just a 10-pound plate or a 10-pound dumbbell. It's annoying after you're walking for a little while. Like, fuck, I shouldn't have brought this with me. but it is really beneficial. I mean, it's just a nice notch above just a regular walk. And if you take it a step further and throw on like a 20-pound weighted vest, you just changed a little stroll, which is still really beneficial and healthy, into a workout.
That kind of brings in something. And Andrew, I'm curious, you too. If you guys were to go back and maybe change the way your progression looked, I know that, all right, if you did, you might not be doing what you are now, but you probably have in your mind a better idea of getting to the same place in a more optimal way, right? Because a lot of the things we're doing right now are to deal with inefficiencies that we didn't address when we were going towards our current goals, when we were trying to get bigger or trying to get stronger. There are probably things that could have been included within all of that, that where you are now, everything that you're doing now would be easier, right? So what would some of those additions be when you were trying to get as strong as possible? What would you be also doing so that you'd be in a better place right now?
I think like I did a pretty good job, you know, especially for somebody that was so into powerlifting. The one thing that I didn't really recognize is how badly my athleticism deteriorated. And so I would have probably tried to leave some more room in for some sort of play, like a swinging of a bat or throwing around a ball or just something in there, even something in the gym, like med ball twists and, you know, med ball slams and stuff and some rotational stuff. Cause I really just didn't have the knowledge on that stuff. There was a little bit of stuff like that. Paul Chek talked a lot about that. And Paul Chek talked a lot about the inverse abdominal area, like a ton, which Matt Wenning was talking about on our show.
We need Paul Chek. Paul Chek, where are you?
Yeah, Paul Chek, he's fantastic. There were other guys at the time, Ian King and some other guys talking about, you know, unilateral stuff, and I just didn't really listen much to it. Dave Tate would talk about stuff, and I would listen to some of that because I was like, yeah, I think he's got a point. And Louis would hammer home like general physical preparedness, some GPP, like don't be a slob. You know, I know you like powerlifting and we're trying to get big. Same thing with bodybuilding. Like it's cool to get big, but like you shouldn't be out of breath all the time.
Did you
be turning red and getting all sweaty all the time?
Did you have any assumptions about certain things that like now you know wouldn't have taken away from you getting stronger, but you just didn't do it back then because you maybe believe that's not going to help me or that's actually going to be detrimental to my strength?
Yeah, I think there's definitely that kind of stuff settles into your head of like you don't want to do like cardio and stuff. But like looking back at it, I mean, it's easy to say, it's hard to like have done it, you know, but like something as simple as going on an elliptical a little bit, like after a workout or something would have been a really wise move. And I know people make fun of the elliptical all the time, but what a great piece of equipment to save the joints.
Yeah.
Like if you're a big boy, you got something that's helping you mimic some running. It's really, really a wonderful tool, you know? And I messed around with some stuff, but I honestly didn't do enough, and I didn't put enough into it. I also, I didn't understand what a miraculous system that we have in our body, and I thought things worked a little bit more isolated than they do. And you know, your ideas change a lot, but I just no longer think that. Like some of the stuff I've done to lead up to my shoulder healing has zero to do with an external rotation, a rotator cuff exercise. There was not one rotator cuff exercise that I did. However, I would say that like that doesn't mean that what I did is the most effective way and that no one should ever do a rotator cuff exercise. But when you go to do something like your left shoulder's messed up, you go to raise your left shoulder up overhead, you'll notice that if somebody's watching you and you don't have your shirt on, you're going to notice that all kinds of stuff happens in your neck. All kinds of stuff happens on the other side. All kinds of things happen in your hips. Like if your shoulder's really damaged, you'll get what's called like a hip hike. Like you'll hike up a hip or you'll lower a hip.
Yeah.
So that way you barely raise your arm up because your body is really fucking intelligent. Your spine, your nervous system, something in your brain will be like, we're not good with that arm being too far away from the body. So let's shut down the abs and let's kind of just put the arm here, like you're barely raising your arm to answer a question rather than being able to, you know, to fully express putting your arm up. And even now my shoulder is still tight. So I got to make some compromises through, and Sturet's been talking about this for a million years too. It's not like the information wasn't there. I just sometimes, you know, was pretty resistant to it because I had my own things that I was doing. But also I was implementing some new stuff here and there, but you only have so much power to kind of like let those influences hit you. And you're just like, you know what? I just need to fucking go work out. You know, I can't sit here and think about this all the time. I have to go and train.
Yeah.
And so I took what I could take, and I utilized some of Starrett's methods, and did some distraction work with bands and some things like that. But one thing I would really advise people to do, with no matter what sport they choose, Matt Wenning nailed it by talking about like the time domain. Like, be really careful with time domains, and be careful with how long and, can I get a hey now, hard you want to do something for.
That was a good one.
Because it was good. It's good for all of us. Be careful with, like, you know, like, it's a really interesting thing when it comes, and I know everyone hates me now because I just talk about running all the time, but like running, if you run like a fucking pussy, like you go out and you run really slow, that's one of the best ways to get good at running. It's been proven, like time and time and time again. They actually think that Roger Bannister, the first guy to break the 4-minute mile, they think he could have done like a 3:45 or 3:48 minute mile if he had some of the modern technology that we have today that gives you a little bit of feedback to track your heart rate and stuff. He was like, fuck it, man, I'm just gonna run as fast as I can. And he did. And he fucking, you know, he proved that his method worked, and we don't have any way to know that a different method would have worked better for him, but we can speculate because there are guys that run a lot faster than that now. The 4-minute mile is done by a lot of high school kids. So it's pretty crazy. But one way to get faster at running, obviously you can't only run slow. That's not going to work forever. But the majority of your training, as we were talking about with lifting too, is in like the 75 to 85% range, which is not, it's not really asking a ton of you. You know, if you can run, I don't know what the equation would be, but just hypothetically, I'm just going to throw this out there, and it might be a little bit off mathematically, but if you can run like an 8-minute mile, you probably want another minute to 90 seconds more would represent the way that you would train. So that's really manageable.
Yeah.
Fuck, a 9:30 mile. And if you run 9 minutes, then it's a percentage. So what I'm saying with the 90 seconds is not going to apply to everybody. But probably a minute to 90 seconds in addition to whatever you would normally run is probably a decent place to start for a lot of people. You want that heart rate only between, and again, there's heart rate equations you can find, calculators you can find on the internet, but your heart rate would be around 140. Once your heart rate starts to get into 150, 160, it's not bad, but you're just doing a different type of training, and you're doing a style of training that, unless you put it into a different category, might not be the most optimal thing for you.
Yeah. Because
you need to run slow and you need to run fast. But as Nick Bear put it, if you run just a little bit above easy, like it's not a good spot to be in. You need something more specific than that. You know, you need something to aim at. You need a goal.
How about you, Andrew?
Just like if I could kind of go back type of thing.
Yeah,
or
what would you adjust?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I was just like super lost, like on all fronts. You know, I didn't have anybody close to me that I could. I mean, I did have like my cousins that were interested in like lifting and stuff, but yeah, I mean, the obvious one is like the patience. You know, like trying to get myself to understand like this is like a lifelong journey. You know, it's not going to happen where you're going to, you know, be like some of these transformations you see on like YouTube.
Yeah.
Cause like I got into the game very late. I was 27 when I joined a gym. So like social media was aplenty at that point. But like, I know like we've been kind of clowning on like oh, it's not optimal or whatever, but like I didn't know anything. So I wish I did know what was technically optimal, not because so-and-so said it, but because of the shit that I've learned, you know, like,
what would you, let me ask you this. So what would you think is more optimal?
Oh yeah.
Now, like,
yeah, absolutely.
What is that
so
specifically?
Like, again, so like, let's just talk about like the bro split that I would do was push pull legs. On a back day. I would just be like, oh, I got to do bent over rows. They hurt really bad, but I have to do them because that's what you're supposed to do. And then after that, I'm going to do deadlifts. And then after that, I'm going to do RDLs. And then after that, I'll probably do some 90-degree back bends and shit. When in actuality, all I really wanted was just like, hey, can I get some lats? Like, I don't fucking have any. And then so now it's like, okay, maybe I could do some single arm stuff. And I could work on the cable machine. And that's the other thing. I would be like, I have to lift a certain number in order to get big, as opposed to like, I just have to get the right stimulus for where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And I wish I could go back and be like, don't fucking even care. Like, don't look at the numbers. So stuff like that, where it's like, again, we can argue all day about what's optimal and what's not. But like, if you have no fucking clue, and also that's just leading to more injury, like, yeah, maybe you should have looked at what's more optimal for you in that moment. So stuff like that, where I was just very uneducated on everything. Like overall, like even like nutrition and stuff, I would be like, oh, I got to eat like boiled chicken and like brown rice. Like, fuck, man, I'm just not cut out for this stuff because I can't do that. Like that makes me gag.
Yeah.
And it's like, now it's like, well, shit, dude, maybe you could have just had steak and you would have been fine. And I would have been totally fine, but I didn't know that that was what you could do. Again, would have maybe gotten leaner if I did try to do like the like chicken, broccoli, and rice thing. But also, I was already 165 pounds or whatever. So it's like, okay, why am I still going to just start eating chicken and rice when, you know, maybe I should probably add a little bit more calories? But it's like, no, you got to be on a shredded diet or whatever. But then it's like I'd watch a Generation Iron video, or, you know, Kai Green like fucking making like 10 like
Those
egg
Kai Green videos.
Maybe there was one where he's making like it was like just a whole fucking tray thing full of egg whites with like 2 eggs cracked in the middle as his breakfast. And I'm like, well, fuck, I guess that's what I got to do. And it's like, oh my God, so many egg whites. Like, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
And like, so like, I would set myself up so hard to fail. Like I would build up this fucking crazy mountain. Here we go. And I'd try to run up it like barefoot or something, you know, like it wouldn't work. And so like, I would just sit there and be like, oh, it's my fault. Like, it's me. It's like, I'm not cut out to actually be anything special in this like fitness realm. When in actuality, I was just very uneducated on all of it. So again, going back to like what I would implement is just like, hey, motherfucker, like actually do some research. Don't, and no disrespect to the Hodge twins, but like I would just go to YouTube for stuff, and like they were one of the channels I would follow.
That's what I did. Yeah.
And I remember,
Chris
Chris Jones too. And I would remember they would be like, they would answer questions, and somebody was like, oh, I'm already pretty thin. Like, what should I be doing? Or should I still be doing cardio? And they're just like, you're already skinny, motherfucker. Like, why are you going to do cardio? Like, don't bother with that stuff. And I would find stuff that would fit my narrative, you know, like, oh, hey, I fucking hate cardio. I'm not going to do that right now. But then that was my life. You know, I've never touched a fucking cardio machine. And it's like, well, maybe that would have helped you with like some of that belly fat that you fucking hated, you know, like just things like that, where it's like, I searched the answers that I wanted, not the answers that I needed. So if I can sum it all up, just like probably finding a really good coach, because I was always like very timid, so I wasn't going to reach out to anybody.
Yeah.
So I would always try to find like some online program, when really I probably should have just asked like the dude that had a slingshot in the gym, like, hey, what the fuck is that? Because I do remember somebody, they had a full bore. And I was like, well, that's weird. But, you know, like maybe there was somebody in my gym that could have been like very, very helpful. But instead I just went to the internet and found answers that I was hoping to find.
I think a lot of people have bad experiences with fitness, like their first experience. Sometimes their first experience is just like really, really hard and humiliating in a lot of ways. Their first experience with, you know, maybe a powerlifting gym is somebody like fucking yelled at them, but I mean, a lot of people do get nice people that will help them. But I've found in my own experience in helping a lot of people that really haven't been to the gym before, helping like my wife's friends, and even helping someone like Andrew who already came in, you know, with some gym experience. I mean, I remember telling Andrew and other people specifically, if you're working out with me and I'm with you and I'm watching you, like make sure I'm fucking watching you, because I might fucking drift off for a second. But if I'm watching you, you will not get hurt. Like I won't allow you to get fucking hurt, because I know. I mean, I don't know everything, so I can't prevent everything from happening, but I've been around enough to where I could say, hey, you know what, that's not a good idea to lift that weight today, or that exercise isn't working for today. Let's try something different. I think a lot of people haven't had their hand held through a nice, comfortable workout, and I think they don't really realize how many options there are. It's like, think of all the people that you know, and then let's think about people that can't do the following workout. Go in the gym, do some seated rows with appropriate weight in accordance to whatever the person's lower back issue may or may not be. Tricep push downs, some lat pull downs with the palms facing, so you get a little bit of bicep activation in there. Walk over to the dumbbell rack, do some lateral raises in between that, bend forward, do some rear delts while you're resting in between those. Do some squats onto a bench. If you're strong enough, maybe hold a dumbbell out in front of you, and then finish out the workout with a 1 mile walk. You know what I mean? Like, who do you know? Like, do you know anybody? Like, anybody in my family that I can think of, from my dad, who's had many, many surgeries, to anybody else in my family, can handle that workout and or some version of that workout and feel good. Like, I did like three sets of 15 reps was prescribed on all the things that were on this paper. And I checked all the boxes and I did all of it. And then maybe you tell them, hey, you know, do this for 2-3 weeks and then maybe increase some weight. They come back to you and they're like, hey, you won't believe it, but I handled a 25-pound dumbbell on the squats today. I held a 25-pound dumbbell in front of me, and then that 25 turns into a 30 and so on. You mentioning that you didn't think you were someone special, what an amazing thing to teach somebody, that you don't need to think of yourself as someone special. You don't necessarily need to be someone special, but if you can build some consistency in this game, you're going to be extraordinary. You're going to be viewed by other people as being amazing, whether that's of value to you or not. Doesn't matter, is like a thing in our society. You know, for someone to be fucking jacked, it's a thing, right? And it can help make you feel better. So I think a lot of times people haven't been like led through a really nice, comfortable workout. I think the other thing that's happened too is sometimes people haven't been shown that it's okay for some of this to be uncomfortable. And it's okay to be a maniac a little bit here and there. It's okay to, like, I know outside the gym, you know, we're not supposed to make a lot of noise and we're supposed to be a little calm unless we're playing a sport. Like in the classroom, you know, you're not supposed to, like, there's no effort in the classroom where you're going, you're going crazy or anything, right?
The answer C.
But if you're punching a heavy bag, you know, you go ahead and make that Rocky face, that snarl, right? And have some intensity to it. I know that you guys have seen this before, especially with soccer and jiu-jitsu. You ever have a coach, like they'll show the drill, they'll tell the team the drill, and then you see the coach kind of getting frustrated. And the coach is like, no, like, it's done like this. Yes. And you're like, what the fuck? I had no idea that 5'4", 250-pound fat little fucker could move like that. Holy shit. I'm surprised he didn't fucking tear his kneecap off, right?
Yeah.
But they show you the way. They show you, like, fuck, okay, that was the way that guy headed the ball into the goal. That was different than the way I had it planned out. I was just going to barely tap it in and hope I got through the drill okay. When I used to do seminars for CrossFit, one of the main things that we did, what people said was of the best value is Jesse and I would work out in front of people. We would invite them to work out with us too if they wanted to, but we would do box squats. We'd do our 8 sets of 2. And then we're like, oh, they're like, that's speed work. Like, we didn't know you're supposed to go fucking crazy. And me and Burdick would be like, yeah, like, break shit. Like, fucking just go a little nuts in there, you know, drive into the bar with everything you got. Be as explosive as you can be. That's how you get the most out of it. You're trying to produce as much force as possible, that compensatory acceleration. Once you have the movement down and you feel like you have the fundamentals of the movement down, put as much into it as you possibly can. It's going to make you stronger by pushing into the weights with more force, even though the weights aren't necessarily heavier. And so now people see that and they go, oh shit, now they're able to get the results. Now someone sees for the first time, oh, that's how you do a drop. I didn't know that's how you do a drop set. I didn't know you go like deep into your own soul. I didn't know it's supposed to burn like that. Okay, cool. And maybe their first go of it, maybe they don't go that deep, but maybe they touch upon something that is a little bit It's just more difficult than what they're used to, right?
What's up, Power Project family? It's time to stop dressing like you're a fucking preschooler and step your game up by checking out Vuori clothing. Now, I'm not one to talk. I wear a fucking pink hat that has a dog on it, but at the end of the day, at least my shirt and shorts are popping. So head to Vuori because they have great stuff for your top and your bottom. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, you guys got to head over to vuori.com/power project. That's VUORI.com/power project, and you guys will automatically receive 20% off your order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes. Let's get back to the podcast. Yeah, another thing I wanted to add on there, like where I would fuck things up, is like I again, going back to like the YouTube shit, it's like you got to do it when you don't want to and blah, blah, blah. Like that led to a lot of injuries too, because like I would wake up exhausted, like, nope, I gotta go. And then, I would like, I don't know, load weight tired or something. I'm like, that fucking hurt my back or whatever. Or like I wouldn't take days off. I would just like, I can't miss a day because if I miss a day, I'm going to go back to being shriveled and weak and, skinny. And I'm like, well, you kind of already still are,
Yeah.
So like, again, like what you were saying earlier, Mark, about like having somebody hold your hand and be like, okay, it doesn't have to hurt all the time, but if it does hurt, like it is okay too. But like, just understand that maybe tomorrow, asshole, you're not going to also get a PR. I didn't understand that either. I just thought it's like, you got to just, PR every day. And it's like, I say that now and I'm laughing because I'm like, that sounds so stupid, but that's what I thought. And again, I wish I could say like, this was when I was 14, 15, I was 27.
Yeah.
So it's like not that long ago, right? Well, 10 years, but still like, this is what was going through my head when I was just like fucking spinning my wheels. So like, although I was in the gym, I wasn't making amazing progress until I got to ST, and that's when shit really took off.
Yeah. No, man. There's a lot there. The whole no pain, no gain mentality in terms of like, going into the gym, even when your body's not necessarily feeling it. And even if your body's not feeling it, you don't make the adjustment during that workout because you can still go in and train, just lighten the shit up. It's not a big deal. But when you're younger, when I was younger, I still had the tendency of like, fuck it, I was going to do 500 for deadlifts or 400 for deadlifts today. I'm gonna fucking do that.
Yeah, or maybe you were gonna do less, but then the other guy shows up and he's doing 405, and you're like, fuck that, I'm gonna do more.
Yeah, man. Commercial gyms had a lot of dick measuring, so I had to show people up. But I get what you're saying. This is the kind of the way I look at it, because when I was focused on bodybuilding, I wasn't focused on just bodybuilding so I could get bigger. At least when I left soccer, I was focused on bodybuilding because I wanted to compete. So everything was like, everything was focused on that. But even so, I think that if I were to go back and make certain adjustments, I would do something like maybe running like once or twice a week, just so I could keep that ability while focusing on building muscle. Because the only thing that would need to be adjusted is just eat more and give myself a few weeks to adjust the fatigue of doing a little bit of running. And again, nothing at like super crazy miles, but just to be able to keep the ability of running. Because, years later, when I tried to pick up running, shit's tough. I can't run like I used to. I will be able to, but it's going to take me a long time to regain that. And if I kept that after I kept playing soccer, after I stopped playing soccer, if I just kept a little bit, twice a week, a few miles, along with the lifting, I would have still been able to get the same amount of muscle or potentially more. So, I think a concept that anybody could take away there is, I think that if you're trying to either get as strong as possible or gain as much muscle as possible, an assumption that we probably all had when we were younger is that cardio is going to take away from it, right? So, Mark, you mentioned doing something like the elliptical. I would have done at least 2 different modes of training, where I had a mode where it's focusing on strength, and then I had another thing where I have some kind of cardio focus. I discovered that when I was 23 when I started jiu-jitsu, because I was still doing powerlifting and bodybuilding style training when I started doing jiu-jitsu. And for a little bit, jiu-jitsu took away from what I was able to do in the gym. But after I was able to adapt to the stress of jiu-jitsu, and it, like we talked about, Matt Wenning talked about, all these people talk about, it takes time.
And some of what you did in the gym may have taken away from your jiu-jitsu in the beginning until your body got mobile, flexible enough. You had to do more mobility work on top of jiu-jitsu, not just jiu-jitsu. you were stretching a lot, I think, when you first got into jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah. I started doing a lot of mobility work because I was like, to be able to move like the little guys that have
Gotta
really good
unwind
technique.
your bodybuilding career in some way.
Exactly. But also, if when I was focusing on training for building muscle when I was younger, if I did everything at a pretty big range of motion, and kind of like you also mentioned, try to figure out ways where the whole body can work together. So I still do those isolation movements. I still do my shoulder presses. I still do some of that, but I also do movements that put me into a long range, like some of the stuff that you're seeing in cable in terms of the chest flies out here, deep knee flexion in terms of certain types of squats, bending in the spine when doing certain types of movements. So my spine has that capacity. If I did those things, there would be less trying to adjust when getting better at jiu-jitsu. I wouldn't need as much mobility training and all the things that I've been doing to unwind all that training. And these could have been, I truly think that these could have been involved at the time, right? I would have gotten to the same amount of muscle and the same amount of strength. It's just a few additions. Another thing that any fucking buddy can do right now is working on your feet. Like, we're doing all this stuff for our feet now to adjust years of wearing the wrong shoes, not working barefoot, all these things. But if you just fucking, Mark has like the toe splay thing here. He has the Neuro ball from Naboso right here. If you guys want to grab that, the link's in the description. I have the Neuro ball underneath my feet and fucking toe spreaders. I don't know if they can see this.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right? I have my correct toe spreaders on right here to help bring spread back to my feet. And I notice, I was talking to Matt Wenning about this, but I notice how well I move now during jiu-jitsu just because my feet are more aware of what my body's doing in space. I'm doing a lot of wild shit. And this is something that you can do passively while you're at work. You know what I mean? These aren't crazy adjustments. These are just small little additions that can play big dividends in the long run. So a lot of these things don't need to take away from your muscle building. Running doesn't have to take away from your muscle building. Jiu-jitsu doesn't need it to be taken away from your muscle building if it's something you're interested in. And lastly, I don't want to ramble on for too long, but I think one big concept is really thinking about what your long-term goal is. Because a lot of people train with bodybuilding in mind to build muscle. A lot of people train with strength in mind as far as powerlifting is concerned. But truly ask yourself, are you trying to become one of the best in the sport? Really, really trying to compete against the best of the best? Or are you doing it because, you enjoy it and it's your hobby? If you're doing it because most of us are doing this because we enjoy it and it's our hobby, then how about adding in some things that are going to help you live better, live more comfortable, move better? That won't, maybe you won't get to your direct goals in that hobby as quickly, but in the long run, you're going to move better, you're going to feel better. Unless you're trying to become one of the best in the world, where maybe running is really going to take away from your 800, 900 pound squat, maybe it's worth it to do a little bit of running or something else that allows you to move better.
I always think it's a good idea to look at stuff like knowing that it would be a good idea to include some sort of cardiovascular training. How can you incorporate some sort of cardiovascular training with it having a net negative or net zero negative impact on your body? So when you start to kind of think about it that way, you might be able to use like an Aerodyne bike of some sort. Like you have a cyclical thing where your legs are moving 10, 20 minutes isn't going to kill you. If, sitting on the seat for too long bugs you, you can stand up and pump your legs a little differently. I was just messing around with the one we have in the gym, and I did 1 minute at over 500 watts, and it's like I've just been messing with that, and it fucking kills. It's a killer. It feels different to me than running, but the impact of some things, they're just it's going to be less detrimental to you if you're somebody that is working on bodybuilding. And you're trying to build big shoulders, and you try the old school behind the neck press, and it bothers your neck and your shoulders. Find another exercise. How can you get a similar result? Are there people that have big shoulders that don't do that movement? Are there people that have big shoulders that maybe don't do a barbell shoulder press at all? Maybe they use a machine. Maybe you could be the person to kind of set the new standard. And maybe you find that you're able to get away with just doing front raises and lateral raises. Find things that are going to make sense. Like when you talk to older guys in the gym, my buddy Lenny at Saying Strength, who showed me the tricep and bicep death, that where you're lifting for like 6 minutes straight.
I love that.
Doing bicep, tricep stuff. It's all the guy uses. That's all the guy does. And he looks like Ryan Spencer. He's fucking shredded. He's probably 65, jacked and tan at 65, and he just uses cables. He's not. I think when he was younger, he broke his body down and doing a lot of heavy leg presses and deadlifts and things like that. And he had the whole bodybuilder physique where he was super jacked. Now he's more on just like the leaner side, but he still looks good. And he just primarily is chilling on those cables. So don't feel like you have to go and do everything that everybody else does. Mm. At the same time, if there's things that you have to chop out of your workouts and you're 30 or you're in your 30s or you're in your 40s, I would investigate that. That's something to look into. Like you're like, I can't do lunges. Kills my knee. And it's like, okay, well, let's just figure out, like, I don't think you should force lunges because there's probably no reason to force them. But should you have a capacity to be able to do some lunges? I mean, a lunge is like just a simple act of like getting up and down from the ground to go to the floor, right? So that's a pretty big deal to have that fucking attribute taken away from you.
Yeah.
What I've seen over the years is sometimes people are like, I can't flat bench, kills my shoulder. And then they're like, I can't incline bench, kills my shoulder. And then they're like, I can't, and they can't do dumbbells, and like all kinds of stuff starts to happen. So if there is an issue, it's not a good idea just to, simply just attack that and have that be the biggest concern. Do the things that you can do currently and work on those things, but also have a little investigation into that. Why does your elbow hurt so bad every time you do that exercise? Is it okay to completely chop that exercise out forever? I think so. I think it's fine to do that. But I'd also wonder, what's the root cause of that elbow? Like what is bugging it? How do you get to that so that you can kind of alleviate some of that pain and some of that stress? Because it's going to show up at some point anyway.
Yeah, something that I dealt with for years was elbow pain when doing tricep press downs. Stepped away from tricep press downs for a bit, did some other tricep type of stuff for a while. Now tricep press downs and dips don't hurt. Dips were my nemesis for a long time. They don't hurt anymore because I stepped back from doing certain movements, and then I came back and slowly progressed dips, and now my elbow's fine with those types of movements. There's a big thing here where it's like, this is really a long game. When Matt came on the podcast, he talked about how everyone wants the size and the strength now, and you'll do everything possible to get it as fast as possible. But the thing is you end up doing a lot of stupid shit to attain that, and you end up beating yourself up too much to try to get there as quickly as you can. Building the skill of running takes you backing off of a few things a little bit to be able to get better at that skill. When I started jiu-jitsu almost 7 years ago, I still did training. I mean, I did my powerlifting meet where I pulled 755, and that was a year after I already started jiu-jitsu, and I was doing jiu-jitsu during that, right? But I did have to back off of a few things so my body could get used to the stimulus of jiu-jitsu. And when people start doing these things, they're like, oh God, my gym stuff's taking a hit, so I can't do jiu-jitsu. But you gotta be okay with giving yourself the time to get used to whatever new thing you're doing. Because over time, the running is not gonna burn as many calories, nor is it gonna fatigue you as much. And for me, the jiu-jitsu isn't gonna fatigue me nearly as much, where I could do jiu-jitsu and lifting in the same day, but it takes time. Now, are you willing to give yourself the time to improve at that skill? You should be. And if you're not, then you just won't build the skill. But I think most people want to be able to have those capacities. And if you want those capacities and you want those skills, give yourself the time to build the skill.
Yeah, I would say, I'm going to ask, like, is time just the answer? Again, if we go back to my younger self who didn't want to do cardio because I didn't want to lose any gains, is it just like, hey, like, you're going to still get those, you're going to get more, but it just means it's going to take a little bit longer. So is time like the overall like answer, or I guess, solution?
Yeah, I think like giving stuff time or just understanding that things can take a while. Like just as a quick example, Let's say you really want to build up your chest. You're like, man, my chest doesn't look very good, and I want to build that up. Well, it would be advantageous to work on your back as well. I mean, having a good back does so much for your chest, because when you have like wide lats, it pushes your shoulders out too. You end up with almost like a capped shoulder from having a wide back. And people don't realize that. They think they're just going to do lateral raises all day long and build up a nice shoulder. And so that helps a ton, and overhead presses and stuff. But you'll notice when people have good shoulders, like our boy Nsima over here, yeah, look at that. A lot of that those lats are pushing those arms out, and it's pushing that shoulder out. And look at that thing. It's like a fucking big ass rock on the side of his body. So anyway, my point is that when if you're trying to build a chest, yes, you can go in the gym and just hammer chest. But imagine if you do back exercises for every one chest movement that you do. Your chest is going to look bigger. If you are to flex your chest, you're going to see your lats at the same time. You're going to see the serratus muscles and some of the muscles that are structured around the lats. And you're going to have a better V taper too, which is kind of the point in building the chest, right? Like you want to build the chest so that your body kind of comes in this kind of V shape. And then also you're going to have better stability through the shoulders, and you're just going to look better because you're going to have better posture. So if you just build the chest and have the shoulders real rolled forward, people won't even really be able to tell. They'll just be like, man, that guy's physique is kind of odd. Like they won't be sweating you. They won't like Smokey's got great pecs, right?
Oh, he has some titties.
Big old bitties. Yeah.
Got a motorboat, those bitches, right?
He's got the big like salami like nipples too. So just big old targets. Yeah.
The salami nipples.
Wow.
Gotta love those salami nipples.
Smoky.
It's great when you just like look at him and you're like, that's a pepperoni pizza, baby. It's just like,
Talk about a nice shoulder to cry on. Wow.
So about his boobies, you were saying.
What were we talking about?
I don't know.
Smokey's a gorgeous man. We need to get him on the show.
Yeah, we need to talk to him.
Maybe do it shirtless.
Yeah, actually, if we do a podcast with him, it must be shirtless.
Could we interview just his nipples?
Just have the mic.
Hello.
Right here.
We get one for each.
Yeah, if you're gonna try to build anything, build strength, build your chest, build your arms, it's gonna take time, and you're better off having it take time so that you can. It's going to take time because it's good to build the surrounding area, and that takes a lot of time. Like you might be able to build your chest up real fast by doing a bunch of shit, but your posture is going to be weird. And same thing with the arms. It's like if you're going to build up good arms, a big part of that is your tricep. It's not just the bicep, despite what Terrel might say, who was all bicep.
I think
bicep. Yeah.
I think honestly though, like
he might have broke the record.
He definitely like fucked it all up because like his bicep is bigger than his tricep. Like,
yeah.
I think if your biceps are that big, I think you could just be like, oh, who cares about triceps? Look at these. And you're just like, you're right.
He's a monster. It's so funny because Terrel was a high level sprinter in college. At Mizzou, and I asked him, I was like, man, what do you think built your arms up like that? Do you think it had anything to do with like the sprinting? He's like, man, I don't know. Like I've done a lot of curls, my arms are strong and stuff. And I was like, well, what is the position of your arm when you're running? And he just kind of like, everything he did was like spectacular. So he showed me just in half a second the way he moved his arm, and he moved his arm, super fast. But his whole arm just went crazy. Like the brachialis popped out, fucking bicep peak popped out. Just when he was showing me that.
I love his fucking captions, man. I do not miss. Go to another caption. I just want to
just see. I want to
see
the consistency.
I want to show a point here.
Super athletic.
All right, what's this?
A challenge. So
right,
I just wanted to see the athleticism.
Yeah, Terrel be doing some wild shit. But sometimes he has like.
What does he do at the top though?
A double
bicep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got to.
T just sometimes has these one-liners where I'm just like, hey, I dig it, T.
His arms are huge. Didn't we measure them? They're like over 19, right?
Yeah.
They might even been closer to
50 pull-ups daily.
How many?
After Muay Thai class, 50. 50.
Why is he doing Muay Thai now? He's gonna be able to beat everybody up too.
Yeah, man.
I was shot by Per Bernal.
I got my own back.
That's right. I do.
He's always talking trash.
Dude, he's got that athlete chip on his shoulder where it's like, hey, bro, like we're all good, right? I'm coming for you. Like, we're friends. Like, don't do that.
You're the homie, man.
Yeah.
Come on, bro.
That's a really good picture, and it kind of shows you like how if you just look at just his arms, you know, and you start to compare it to like his waist, like the arm's not far behind how small his waist is. Like that's just fucking craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
but
old Terrel.
another guy that's doing multiple things. You know, he's a track athlete. He does some bodybuilding training. He does some strength training. He does Muay Thai, and he's maintaining size. And someone in the comments is gonna be like, "It's genetics," but you know what?
I think
Fuck
they'll
it.
say steroids before they say genetics.
Oh, they'll say steroids before genetics.
and then they'll say genetics. But yeah,
It's those BBC genetics. It's because he's black.
well, so yeah, he was like I don't know what
A D1 sprinter.
Yeah.
fucking freak athlete, right? And then
He is, yeah.
you know his dad forced him to fucking do curls when he wanted to watch cartoons.
You're right.
So
He
it's
had a
like,
curl bar in his
Yeah.
like corner of his room or whatever.
So I don't know, man.
That's pretty awesome.
Some
And
people
now
are
we-
just freak athletes too, though.
Man. Well,
Anyway, I say fuck it, man. Keep leaning towards the things that you're interested in, and when it comes to working out, you know, don't think that you just have to be stuck in the same old pattern of doing the same old lifts. There's a lot of people that have injuries and they still are continuing to do the same movements, and it's like, man, I'd like to see you develop another skill set so you don't have to be stuck in this. I know you like doing it. I understand you like doing it, but yeah, just even seeing some friends online sometimes, you know, just lifting so heavy. I'm just like, man, I just like, didn't they get that out of their system yet? And I guess, you know, to each their own. Like if that's what they're interested in and that's what they like to do, and they feel like they're doing so in a safe fashion, then I guess go for it. But it's like, it's also at a certain point, it's like, is that really building much of anything anymore? Like, I don't really know. Like, you know, in business, they kind of say you get your business to a certain point and they'll say like, double your, you know, when you're backed into a corner, they'll say double your efforts or quit. You got to make a decision and double your efforts or quit. If I was to double my efforts with lifting, yeah, I can make some changes, but how much of a change could I make? Like my effort's good. It's pretty good. But with everything I have in my life at this time, if I was to double my efforts, there'd be compromises in other areas, which I'm not willing to give up. So to me, it's like, I'd rather just hold on to this. I just said, like when we've had Michael Hearn and other people come in, I still feel comfortable even popping my shirt off next to a great bodybuilder. Not that I look like a bodybuilder, but I feel good. For me, I feel good. And I think that's saying something that I, you know, also to be able to do that year round and to stay in shape all the time. There's not a time where I'm like, oh man, give me 3 weeks and I'm going to, yes, of course we can all get leaner in 3 weeks, but I don't feel like I need that.
No shade to anyone, but like none of us have been like, all right, we got to lose 30 pounds or 40 pounds or other than the last time you went from 330 down.
Right.
You've had habits over the past few years that have allowed you to stay in shape. There's no moving between weights and getting out of shape or getting fat because of bad habits. Like, you got habits in check so you can stay healthy and in shape. And I know, you know, if you're trying to get bigger right now, you're gonna put on some size, you're gonna put on some fat. But like, we have good habits to allow us to be healthy.
Right.
Right? So
Yeah, and I think you know, you can also, if you are somebody that likes to lift heavy, you can start to maybe redefine some of the things that you lift heavy with, or some of the ways that you gauge your strength. Again, this is for somebody that might be banged up. If you're not banged up and you're young and you're still having fun and you're still lifting, it's all good. But I think even in off season for a high level or for somebody in powerlifting would be a good idea to like, yeah, man, I wonder if I could start swinging those, you know, heavier kettlebells. I wonder, you know, what it'd look like if I did some of those kettlebell presses, or just do something different just to see if you can handle it. It's a different challenge. It's a new challenge, right?
man, there's this heavyweight kettlebell, dude. What were you about to say, Andrew?
I was gonna ask. No worries, because like in thinking of like regular training days here at ST, it's like the big main lift, and then when it comes to the accessories, people start to fade. I don't blame them, because sometimes the accessories are harder than than the three, the big sets of three, I should say. Would somebody be able to get the same benefit from doing like one of the main lifts, let's say this afternoon, and then tomorrow morning doing accessories, or doing accessories this morning and then doing the main lift towards the end of the day?
I think you bring up a great point. You can do it whatever the fuck way you want. And if it was just a little bit more than what you're previously used to, you're going to make a lot of progress. That's what's so awesome about this, is that you don't have to go to the beat of anybody else's drum but your own. And you know when you're fucking around, like when you're not putting in the right effort. So that's going to be the thing that sometimes is difficult to rein in on, and you might have to pick certain people to work out with so that increases a little bit here and there. But that is actually a really wonderful reason why to occasionally call up your crazy friends. Hey, bro, can we work out tomorrow? Like, maybe you just do that once a month. You know what I mean? Just to like check in with your lunatic friend. Like Smokey likes to go nuts when he lifts.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't lifted with him in a while, but I should. It would probably make me super sore. He does every exercise. I mean, he does like 8 exercises in a workout, which I don't think I've ever even done before, except for when I worked out with him.
You got to pack a lunch when you're going to train with Smokey.
I do like 5 exercises and I'm fucking shot.
That's because when you get your squats take you a fucking hour.
Yeah, right. Like, I'm out of here. I'm tired.
Yeah, I see dudes set up like sleeping bags and like tents and shit when they're going to train with Smokey, because it's like you're going to be committed and you're going to be here for a while.
Yeah. No, but like, splitting certain movements up, there's no reason why you can't. Like, if you're training setup that you have like some heavy squats or whatever, but you have a bunch of other accessories, dude, go and do your squats, and then at another part of the day or maybe the next day, do those accessories when you have the time to do them. Because some people skip those accessory movements, even the way we call them accessory movements. They're extremely fucking important. Like, those movements, whatever they are important for building muscle in different areas, building potential mobility and all that. But some people just only focus on the squat or the deadlift or the bench. And it's like, these accessory movements are things that are going to be keeping you healthy. You better get that shit in somehow.
Makes sense.
I think as long as you do the work, I think you're good.
Yeah.
So even if you were just to have some kind of shit shoulder workout, like you just went in the gym and you did 2 or 3 shoulder movements and that was the workout for the day, there's still some benefit to that. There's mentally, there's a lot of benefit to that. Like, once you get yourself moving, it feels good. You at least feel like you did something, even if it wasn't at the greatest intensity. But if it's been a little while since you've done some of those movements, technically you should get some result from it. But we kind of constantly are hearing about these intensity zones and these studies and all this stuff. But it's been my experience to where, again, if I know Nsima had some people taking exception to him talking about feel, but like, I think that's all we know, in this world. All we know is like our experiences. And I know from experience, like, what makes me feel good. Like, it literally puts me in a good mood to have accomplished a workout. And it doesn't matter the workout. Like, the workout I did yesterday was really weird. I did a bunch of weird stuff in the gym. None of it was like anything that I would say is like massively productive, but I was like, that felt fucking awesome. That made me feel great. It made me feel like I completed some of the mission for the day. It wasn't like a typical like bro pump workout or anything like that. I wasn't even really working on anything specific. I just started taking that weird red pole thing in the gym and started swinging it sideways, hooking it up to some cables.
I gotta try that.
Yeah,
I saw you doing that yesterday.
Yeah, it was weird. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but I could feel my stomach working. It was hard. I was sweating. And I was like, I'll do some pull-ups in between. I did some push-ups in between. And I just kind of did like a circuit. I did like, 3 or 4 different movements. I went through it a couple times and I was like, I'm out. Does that build muscle the most optimal way? I don't really know. But I know it feels good. And I know I feel good about myself, which I think is what most people are trying to do when they're exercising, right?
Yeah, the whole feel thing was funny.
What happened? I didn't. Here, see what happened.
Yeah, I showed some rowing movement on Instagram and TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah. And at the end of it, I said, try a movement out and just see how you feel. And a bunch of people started tagging like some of their favorite fitness TikTokers and influencers. And I understand that because some people want to, see if something makes sense. So they ask this guy, like, is this make sense?
You got to go by your aura ring and what that says.
Yeah.
You can't go by how you feel because you don't really know.
Yeah. And, there were some kind of valid things. I think this is honestly a whole other podcast. But there are some people mentioning, some people are beginners, so they can't really judge how something is based off of how it feels. But I remember when I was a beginner, like I was trying a few things out. I did a few things that were a bit unorthodox because I felt a good pump in certain areas. And I was like, ooh, I kind of like this. So it's odd because there are a lot of things that we're doing where we're like, ooh, I don't have an ability to move there. Or, oh, that's kind of tight. Why is that tight? Should it be tight? Should I not be able to do this? Right? And then we go down that rabbit hole and we gain new ability. And I think some people are just kind of shooting themselves in the foot because they're unwilling to try things unless they get the okay from someone that they believe, someone that knows more than them. Because a lot of these coaches who they tag do know more than them. But on the other side, a lot of the coaches that they tag are only focused on very specific realms of movement, fitness, muscle, etc. So unknowingly, I think some people kind of just, let's say, they stifle themselves because they're not willing to give certain things a try. And truthfully, it might not be their interest. But on the other side of things, you never know. If you try something, it might open up a whole new world.
Lane Norton, what do you think about this? Right, like that's what they do, right? They want like this other guy to judge it, so then they can make a judgment from there. But they can't make their own judgment yet because they need to wait till their favorite person talks about it.
Yeah,
and it's tough because it's like, if you really trust what someone is putting out, then you're going to trust them to say that's valid or it's not. But then you also like. Again, if you talk to some of your high-level powerlift friends, you're like, hey, Stan, you think I should try this running shit? Some people
I asked him. He was 100% negative.
if I told certain people when I started jiu-jitsu, like I learned coaching, a lot of what I learned initially was from Alberto Nunez, and I was like, Berto, or, actually Jeff Alberts. When I started jiu-jitsu, I remember going to one of their seminars, and I told you about this. Jeff was like, okay, well, your focus should be bodybuilding because, you're not going to be a world champion in jiu-jitsu, but you're going to be a world champion in bodybuilding. And I took that personally. But
that was perfect.
But if I really heeded that, and I was like, you know what, fuck this jiu-jitsu shit, then I wouldn't be doing what I am now. I had to try shit out that some people didn't think would be ideal.
And he probably wasn't even trying to be negative.
He wasn't.
His main point was probably just that you are in my opinion, you're a great bodybuilder. That was probably his main thing. Like, kid, what are you doing, man? Don't fucking leave us. Don't leave bodybuilding. Stay with it.
Yeah, like if Kenny was like, oh, Mark, I'm going to just be a long distance runner now, I'd be like,
come on, man.
No, don't do that to me.
Step on stage for us.
Yeah.
I think, again, it all just falls in line to, hey, if you find an interest in something, try it. Try it. Damn it.
Yeah, and then if you do find something, like for me, I remember low close grip cable pulley rows felt really good. I'm like, I think I can feel it in my back. This feels awesome. But then I watch a YouTube video and it was like, oh, for optimal or whatever, or if you want a wide back, use a wide grip or something. I'm just making shit up because I can't remember what it was. But then I was like, oh, I gotta have okay, I gotta use a wide grip. I'll do that. I'm like, damn, I don't feel a fucking thing. It's like, but this is what I'm supposed to do, so I got to get good at this.
Yeah.
And
wide grip, wide back. I love that one.
Yeah. It's funny because it would, anyways.
Man, we got to talk about this at length, though. This is a whole new episode.
But, when you do find the thing, then don't go and find somebody that explains why that's not the thing. If you feel it, fucking go for it.
We are learning so much right now from different people that are coming in and like Matt, like all these fascia people. We're learning so many things. And I know how people say, this fitness thing, it's like there are tried and true methods of doing things. But as we do more things, like we're just like, wow, like these are a lot of capacities that could help me get bigger.
It's not that tried. It's not that true. It's fucking new. It's still really new.
Or maybe because
lifting weights is still new. Like we haven't been doing it for that long.
Yeah, or maybe there's probably somebody who was doing some of the stuff we're doing right now, but maybe just it's not popular or it hasn't been popularized because you know how Matt referenced all those Russian books and how they were doing some wild shit, right? So maybe people were doing some of this shit, but it's not what's popping on social. And it's not what's popping in what all these people are making programs about. So people just think it doesn't make sense or it hasn't been researched.
Well, the internet is interesting because you get someone like John Hack out there who's just crushing these weights all the time. There's some other young kid watching that right now who's like 11 or 12 who's like, hey, he's going to take it to that level. I'm going to take it to another level. Because from what I've heard, there's a couple guys that are even nipping at John Hack's heels, which I know Matt was like, I think he's got to be better for a little longer to be the greatest. So I'm thinking, no, I don't think so. Like I think he's the greatest lifter of all time. I think he is. Like it's just fucking crazy. I know there's guys that won like 20 championships and stuff like that, and that's sick. But if we're just going by the measure of powerlifting, which is like being the strongest, I have never seen anything quite like it before.
Yeah.
And again, people have their favorite guys, and I love Ed Cohn and stuff, and I think Ed is one of the all-time greats too. But I've never seen anyone do what John Hack has been doing right now. And I will say I wasn't around for some of the early guys, so I didn't see that. But watching what he's doing right now, and having the eyes on him that he does from having social media, like I am unaware of how many times Ed Cohn deadlifted 870 pounds plus, but I'm fairly aware of how many times John Hack does it, and it seems like he does it every fucking Tuesday.
And when we were when we were having this conversation with Matt Wenning, you know, like how people will point to him for whatever it is, like, oh, well, he does it, so I'm going to do it too. It's like, well, okay, well, there's just the one John Hack, but also like I think Wenning was talking about like competing, like don't do it so often, like look at how other people are doing it. And like if you are following John Hack, like, oh, he competes all the time. But it's like he'll go into a meet and be like, I did okay. Like it wasn't like a PR type of event for him, but he still smokes everybody. Yeah. So like that's different. It's almost like a tune-up meet for him. It's not like, you know, because what do we say or what do we hear is like, oh, I'm gonna leave it all out on the platform.
He doesn't
always he doesn't, and he still wins. So it's like,
and he just competed again. He went like 8 for 9, which is also really rare. The high level guys very rarely make their lifts like that. A lot of times something happens or they pass on an attempt and stuff. But like, he basically was perfect in the meet, and he fucking killed everybody, and he broke some world all time. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's disgusting.
He's different.
You know, I don't know if it doesn't seem like John's rushing though. I could be wrong. Could be totally wrong, right? But it just doesn't seem that like he forces things when it comes to training. Like he'll go for shit.
Looks like he doesn't care.
Like when he came in here, man, he was so chill. Like he just does what he does every day, and then it's like, was there, wasn't there, moves on. You know, he's not like all the time. You know, that's the only way I can describe it because that's what comes to mind.
Yeah, too bad he's not that. Too bad he's not a little like Conor McGregor-ish, right? Powerlifting would blow up. He'd be like yelling and screaming at everybody, right?
Yeah.
Would you call like Ed like I don't know, this is a good comparison, but Ed's like the Jordan and Hack's like the LeBron?
Yeah,
because
that's
like
great comparison.
Because like people look at like LeBron's capacities and like his just ability as a basketball player. He can do everything, but he doesn't have those rings.
Right.
I don't know. Does Hack have the rings?
Is
that a stupid comparison?
No. Well, powerlifting is just different now. There's like no there's like no unified championship that's like really that anyone really cares that much about. You can go the IPF route, but the IPF stuff, it's difficult because it's like there's not any like money behind it or anything. Like I'm sure John's probably doing pretty well with the way that he does things because he's not that you can't program for people if you're in the IPF, but it's like I don't know why you would go through there's so many rules to all that. Yeah. And you travel with a team and I don't know. It's just like, if you're a young kid, like it would probably be a ton of fun.
Yeah. You know what we never talked about? I wanted to bring this up with Matt, but you know how they changed the bench rules in the IPF? They like minimize the arch. I never read deeply into it, but yeah, you cannot arch. There's something about the shoulders and whatever where you will not see these rainbow arches anymore.
Yeah, because they had some of the lifters were reaching way out wide.
Yeah.
There is a limit on how wide you can go. You can't go past the power ring. That's on the bar, and then you'd have a huge arch, and then you barely move the weight.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were trying to have some sort of like restrictions on that. It's like weird stuff. It's like I don't know what you do, but
So what does that mean for the records that may have been broken using those types
Right,
of
I
arches?
know.
Right? Are they gonna? They're probably not gonna fuck with those records.
and then what do you do with like our girl Jen Thompson, who just like gets up there flat back and fucking handles like 330 pounds?
She's another mutant
Weighing
that doesn't make
130
sense to me.
pounds.
Yeah, she's so fucking strong.
Do you ever see her do the
Yes.
bench press holds with 500 plus
Yes.
pounds?
Yeah, we saw that.
See if we can bring up a clip, man. That shit's impressive.
She came in here and did that shit.
Yeah,
She's a monster.
yeah, she just did one not too long
John
ago.
Hack, yeah, he just competed too. Maybe we should bring up a clip of that. He's a fucking savage.
John Hackintosh.
Mm-hmm. Hackenschmidt. Oh, we were talking about our boy Kenny. So Kenny,
Just because she's in a slingshot.
oh, nice.
What you bet you like 520? Hunchuck 340.
340.
340, got the reactive slingshot on. This was not done on purpose, but maybe it was.
Could have
Find your slingshots at markbellslingshot.com. Use code PowerProject for 10% off your entire order.
been. Links down in the description.
I actually don't even know if that's the code.
I'm pretty sure it is. I think it's like code Power Project 10
Oh, Power Project
for
10?
10% off.
Damn.
She just did like crazy amount of reps right there.
Yeah, during the whole promo. That's great how she did
So
that.
our boy Kenny, he did the typical bodybuilder posing, with the clothes around his pants around his ankles,
Hey, Andrew, you should pull this
I'm
up.
gonna.
which is always a great thing. And then look at our girl Susan.
Oh, no. That's a Susan Bratton.
Oh.
Susan Bratton.
She said, "I love the drop trowel."
Of course she did.
I'm not gonna find it.
Our resident sexpert.
That's what Andy said right away too. She's like, "What's going on? Like, why are his pants down?"
And we're all just like, look at you just staring at him.
I'm so hungry.
I like this picture. Mark's like,
Look at this young man. Wow.
look at that meat.
If you guys are listening, we're very sorry for all the sounds that we're making, but we're just admiring our boy Kenny _Williams _ dog. That username.
I know. We gotta fix that.
How stupid is it? This is his first bodybuilding show.
It's his first show, and
He looks incredible.
the boy has incredible shape. And it's just, I get jealous about how well he rocks 4X shirts. It doesn't make any sense to me because, like, I don't know.
He weighs like 200.
He weighs 200 pounds. Something about the broadness of his shoulders. He'll wear a 4X shirt and look big in a 4X shirt. And it's just like, dog.
And handsome too.
And handsome.
Just
And handsome.
got it all.
I don't like the guy. He makes everybody feel fat and insecure.
Fuck him. Fuck him. And he's an athlete too. Have y'all seen what some of the shit he can do with
Oh,
baseball?
yeah.
And like a fucking, like that
Oh,
boy.
he can jump like crazy. I remember
Yeah.
that.
See, he's a guy who's like, he's not going to lose on his
baseball
athleticism.
player.
But just look at the shirt though.
But he's, epitome of kind of what we're talking about. Like, we've talked to him before. Like, dude, don't lose some of your athleticism.
Yeah.
And I think he's been doing a good job listening so far. He might end up, going down the rabbit hole so hard that, like, one day he's 275 and he's like, oh man, I can barely wipe my ass today, But hopefully he sticks with listening to some of our stuff, just because, like you said, if you get too far away from any one thing, it's just going to take you that much longer to rebuild any of it, and you're just more prone to a lot of pain and or injury.
Yeah, no, I've been looking at, I've been seeing him train though. Everything he does, he does really good range of motion when he does his squats, his movements, and he's doing things like he does box jumps here and there. He does things to maintain that ability. So, dog he's gonna wreck. I can't wait for his show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got maybe 6
5
weeks. 5 weeks?
5 weeks.
Nice.
I gotta get in there and get some photos of him.
Take us on out of here, Andrew.
Alrighty. Thank you everybody for checking out today's episode. Please drop us some comments down below on some of the stuff that you did early on in your fitness journey that, I don't know, maybe you wish you changed, or if you can go back, what would you adjust? And let us know, because we want to hear that. And make sure you guys like and subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already. Please follow the podcast at MB Power Project on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. My Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima, where are you at?
Discord is
Discord.
popping, so check it out. But anyway, At Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube. At Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Mark.
I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.